ABC's Rick Klein, ABC's political director, joins us live there now. Rick, a big night in Washington, a big night for President Obama.
It is, and he won't have a poker face because this is one of the last opportunities he's going to have, guys, to command the national attention in this election year. So much of the country has already moved on. President Obama very cognizant of that fact, and he's also cognizant of the fact that there may be nothing that he does this entire year as important as laying the groundwork for this presidential election. It is such a political year. He, of course, is a political animal, and we are just getting started. So this is an opportunity for him to frame the conversation that, frankly, has gotten quite a bit away from both him and Democrats more generally.
And I know, Rick, that he hasn't endorsed a candidate, but there is only one Democrat that is running for the nomination that has, in fact, served in the Obama administration. Do you think anything in his speech tonight will try either tacitly or overtly to support Hillary?
I'd be surprised if he did anything that got him involved. He was asked just the other day, are you going to get involved in this primary? He says no, he's not going to endorse. But I'll tell you, the more intriguing figure may be looking at Joe Biden right to his right shoulder, because the vice president just yesterday gave an interview where he's very complimentary about Bernie Sanders and his commitment to issues involving poverty and economic insecurity and inequality. He said, look, Hillary Clinton's just new to this. That was quite a jab, and it was read as such by Hillary Clinton and her aides. They were caught off guard by that remark, surprised that he'd be going there. So look, no question to most people in Washington that Barack Obama wants Hillary Clinton to be the successor. That's the cleanest sort of handoff, and he does think that that's the one candidate out there, more than Bernie Sanders or Martin O'Malley, that's positioned to win in the general election. But he's not looking to put his finger on the scales of this Democratic primary. I think his aim much more is about Republicans, all of whom, by the way, would undo the work that he's done over the last 7 years. So that, I think, in terms of the politics, is where he's headed.
Well, Rick, in terms of the work he can still do, because this is not, it's not the end of his presidency tonight, what are you going to be looking for in terms of what he says about work that is still yet to be done that he can actually take action on in the coming months?
I'm looking for emotion. I'm looking for swagger from the president, because he's going to have to go it alone. Look, he's walked into this chamber in such different circumstances. When he first took office in 2009, it was the height of the economic recession, a lot of insecurities out there, a lot of worries out there, and he had a lot of friends and allies in the audience and Democrats who were willing to work with him. And then followed perhaps the most productive 2 years in recent memory in terms of legislation and major achievements, including Obamacare, including the big bailout, including some other legislation that it didn't end up going anywhere around the environment and around immigration. But since that time, since that first 2 years, it's about protecting the gains of those initial 2 years. So he is now in a stage where realistically there's only a handful of things that can get done with Congress. It's what gets done around Congress. He outlined those gun control measures just last week. Where else is he staking out territory? The other thing I'm looking for tonally is the swagger of how he's bragging about what's done. Because if he can convince the American people, convince the people that are willing to be convinced by him that things are going well, and the country's headed in the right direction, that's the best thing he can do for Hillary Clinton. That's the best thing he can do for his legacy. And this is a skilled performer who knows that.
And swagger, you think, is going to be key to that? Because we just saw in the new poll numbers that are out today, Rick, that most Americans don't think that the president is doing an exceptional job.
That's right, and it's his failing that he's in a large part of communication to not get that point across. He's the first to say that and to acknowledge that as a problem that he's going to have to continue to work on. And it comes at a time of diminishing influence, that he can go out there and talk about things. Less and less people are paying attention to it. So much attention already on 2016. But the reason I say swagger is because it is a sales job. Donald Trump, above all, should show you how that's done in politics, that you have to convince people that things are moving in the right direction. He's got a lot to be proud of. It's the achievements, it's the economy's movement. He's got a lot that he still has to work on. And I think the way he addresses national security concerns, very, very important tonight as well. But he is the last remaining big messenger out there in public office. He has the power of the presidency, the bully pulpit. Tonight and throughout this year, how he frames this argument and whether he can convince people that the country is moving in a direction that's positive, that's worth continuing that legacy with another Democrat.
And Rick, I just want to go back to something else that you mentioned. I think that this whole Bernie Sanders, Vice President Biden thing was so interesting. And even today, when he came on TV to try and clarify those remarks, it still sounded like he was supporting Sanders.
It sure did, Lana. And whether or not it's an explicit support, clearly there's an affection there. And part of that has to be based on, you have to think that Vice President Biden thinks, if I was in this race, I would be winning right now. I'd be doing better than Hillary Clinton. I'd be addressing these concerns. And it happens that this last State of the Union address from President Obama comes at a time that Bernie Sanders is doing a lot of what Barack Obama did to Hillary Clinton 8 years ago. It's remarkable to see the similarities in terms of the online fundraising base and the liberal activists starting to get involved. And now 2 polls out, one in Iowa, one in New Hampshire, both with Bernie Sanders' name in front of Hillary Clinton. She has seen this movie before. And the fact that we're still having these arguments for her, around her, deeply frustrating to her, and speaking to something larger going on in the country right now. And there's a liberal kind of mirror image to what Donald Trump has tapped into in terms of the anger, the frustration, the visceral kind of feeling that the people are not on your side, that the system's stacked against you. Donald Trump has hit that note on the conservative side. This is Bernie Sanders hitting it on the liberal side. And against all odds, this 74-year-old Jewish independent socialist senator from Vermont is looking like he's in striking distance of beating the most formidable non-incumbent potential nominee in the history of presidential politics. It's really an amazing moment to have Bernie Sanders sensing the momentum out there right now.
Rick, that description of Senator Sanders is one of the most complicated and yet succinct that I've ever heard. Can you say that again? Do you remember what
let's
you
see
said?
if I can get it right. He's 74-year-old Democratic Socialist Jewish senator from Vermont. There's a lot there that says this guy can't win. I didn't even talk about his hair, guys.
I don't know why that's not on his bumper stickers, by the way.
It'll be there by the end if this thing continues. It's a lot of words to put in, but all you need is the hair. All you need is that look, and you say, this guy really? No one, I would say Bernie Sanders included, thought he'd be where he is right now. That this was about making a statement. This was about making a stand, not letting Hillary Clinton go unopposed. And you could see the image early on that he'd go out there, he'd get his like 30% or something like that, and show up at the convention and gladly say that he influenced the debate. This is so much more than that now, guys. This is an actual movement that has actual electoral possibilities.
It's a different race. I can feel you getting psyched up already, Rick Klein. Now, I have to ask you before we let you go, I know you've got your tradition of debate nachos during each of the presidential debates. Is there a State of the Union snack for Rick Klein?
It is such a good question. You know, I'm tempted to say because it's the last one that you could maybe have an alcoholic beverage for part of it, but I think that's probably
you and
still
Ruth
not,
Bader Ginsburg.
Exactly. It's probably still not appropriate, I have to say. But no, tonight it's pizza. It's debate pizza, which is totally unhelpful. But it actually fits in the campaign theme because it's a campaign year. I'm just ready to carve up and slog through. So that's what we're doing. And by the way, this is going to be so much less complicated than one of these debates, right? Like Donald Trump won't be there. You won't have all the cross currents. This is just one person for one block of time laying out his vision politically. This is easy by comparison, right, guys?
Well, nothing's easy. You just make it look easy, Rick Klein. Thank you
guys.
so much for joining us.